I have a bunch of like-minded brothers like yourself, and I kind of, you're introduced to me through Kevin Lamberting, and who's got a pretty good little podcast. I suggest you guys look that up. And so, yeah, we just cross paths, and it sounds like you're an outdoors guy, and I'm an outdoors guy. All morning I've been out back fly fishing, catching bass. I got a couple carp rods out there right now. And so I just love life, and I'm hoping to pass on a future that's worth living, for my kids and, someday my grandkids. And so, I think that's where you and we talk a lot. We have talked a lot about kind of the direction things are going, and we don't like it. To be honest with you, we just don't like it.
Not at all. Not at all. Other guest tonight is the Kentucky Renegade from his show Renegands Rant. The podcast Brooks was talking about that we were both on together was called A Little Extra Limbo. It's episode 87 if you want to go give that a holler. Let's introduce you to our other guest tonight, Kentucky Renegade.
What's going on, guys? How are you guys?
We are good. Like I said, he's got his own podcast. It's called Renegands Rant. This past week, he had a special guest on there. Tell him what your episode was Thursday, brother.
We had Change Unchained's co-founder, Troy Yoshifer, and, what he's doing in the world of ending human trafficking. It's something else. To know that this is one of the largest epidemics in this country is human and child trafficking, the sexual exploitation of our children. He comes on, he gives his story of how he's been affected by this and what put him in that direction of going after the human traffickers.
Awesome. I can't wait for that. That's how, we was in a group this past winter on TikTok. Brooks probably is not really aware of it, that we raised $1,300 in like 4 hours for Change Unchained. It's actually one of the nonprofits I do sponsor, and I don't really give into a lot because I don't meet all the criteria for me to donate to. This one does all the aftercare. It's a great program. I'll have a link in my show description for you to be able to access their website and be able to go donate. Just a few dollars helps. They've got the mini village to help the people have a place to live and get them back on their feet and re-educate them, reorient them back to society in the tiny house area that they have down there on the Gulf Coast. I won't give out a direct location because of what they do. So anybody watch the press conference today?
I didn't get a chance to.
Well, Jean-Pierre said now the government is concerned about our teenage and young children's mental health. They have increased in their mental health deterioration over the last 2 years. Don't know what would have happened to have caused a deterioration like that.
Wouldn't be a lockdown or anything, would it?
I'm not real sure. Could be. I know we didn't force masks on people. It couldn't be that.
Or force a shot or anything.
Yeah.
So let's get this taken care of before we get started any further. A little disclaimer we need to post right now. You'll be seeing that pretty regular. All right. Now, anything we discuss on this show from here on out is not a substitute for your personal health care. If you have any desire to change your health care, your medications, of anything that we discuss or touch on in this episode, we suggest that you consult your personal medical practitioner to do so. Do not substitute any information that we give. These are strictly editorial opinions. Now back to our show. All right. So
glad we got that out of the way.
Now, got to get that out of the way. It's part of the BS in this business. Especially, it's not really the business, it's the platforms that we're on. Why all of a sudden would they interject children's health care into it, knowing good and well the projections for the year was 631 rural hospitals would be closing. That was most definitely stuck out to me as it's a specific number. It's not approximately 600 hospitals. It's 631 rural community hospitals, critical access care hospitals.
Yeah. And you can't close those. You absolutely cannot.
Nope. But they are. Or the big conglomerates are going in and swiping them, buying them all up and removing certain care modules to send it and divert them to the bigger cities.
Yeah.
And I think that's totally by design. I think that goes back to our 15-minute city problem that we're going to have.
Yeah.
Renegade's done a lot of research into that. That's why he's here. Could this be, not saying that it is, but could this be the way they couldn't take over healthcare, so they're going to use your healthcare to take over the country?
Yep. Well, you got a lot of rural population that rely on critical access hospitals for their care, and these rural communities are typically what? Little red, little right, conservative type. And so mess with their health care. And of course, you got your baby boomers, who are a lot of your conservatives. They're getting up there in age, start messing with their health care. They can't get to a doctor. I mean, sometimes these critical access, I work in them. And
right,
dude, your acute asthmatics, your COPDers, and if you have an anaphylactic reaction, where are they going to go?
Yeah, especially after 5 p.m. Because if they do leave a clinic open,
everything's closed after 5.
Everything's closed after 5.
Even in the city, it's closed, man. Your walk-in clinics are over, man. Like, go to the emergency room.
So your emergency room.
That, you think about.
Go ahead, Renegade.
You think about your people who live off grid. I mean, they rely on rural healthcare as well, and you think about what they're doing with these hospitals, these rural hospitals, and taking them out. They know that they're going to have to force people to go to bigger cities. And like you said, this ties into that 15-minute concept. They want you under their control, period. They don't want you to have the ability to access a small rural hospital so they can get the care that they actually need. They want to send you off to a bigger hospital so they get you in those 15-minute cities. They want to take away that ability to have your freedom of choice to choose what hospitals you go to.
They won't have to. They close the nursing homes at the same rate they're closing the hospitals. You eventually move everybody to where the healthcare is, which will be the 15-minute city. Mm-hmm. So they're using the healthcare to take it over. That's a simple editorial opinion, right? So since we're playing in that, let me tell you what got me shut down for the last 2 months. I started an episode of Nursing Underground. I did not start out the usual way. I started out telling a story right from the get-go, and it was something like this. Mike's laying in the tall grass, looking up at the stars, trying to figure out what's going on. He just notices how beautiful a night it is. He's laying there. He feels the rain start dripping. He hears it. Feels weird to him. He's laying there looking at the stars, thinking about what a beautiful night it is. He hears the birds chirping. He hears all this going on. Far distance, he hears a siren. Far, far distance. So he's laying there for another 4 or 5 minutes. He starts noticing pain in his leg. Then he starts being more aware of his surroundings, and looks around and realizes he's been in a car accident. In the faint distance is still the siren coming. He realizes the trickle that he thought was rain is actually his head's been split open from hitting the steering wheel. And he's laying there. He's looking at the full moon, and he sees it start shrinking. He still hears the siren. He's actually getting closer. They get there, and he hears somebody to tell him to hold on. Here's the problem. The city the local rural community access care hospital has been closed for lack of funding. That's what they've been using as their excuse. So he dies on the way to the hospital. Well, that's going to happen. You're going to hear that story played over and over and over every time a critical access hospital is closed, because that's what it's going to be. It's not going to be that. It's going to be grandma at the local nursing home. Well, their funds are closed. They can't get an ambulance. There's no critical access hospital close enough if there is an emergency. So you're going to have to close that down and move it to the city too.
Yep.
And when you're thinking about that way, that you've got daycares in these small rural towns, you've got gas stations that could have accidents the accidents that happen on the road. I mean, there's multiple incidents of injury that happens in rural areas that aren't normal for big city ERs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Woman goes into labor. She's out of town visiting relatives.
Correct.
Has a baby. Where do they go?
Yeah. But the local rural access community hospital for critical access, no longer there.
Not there. What are you gonna do?
Got me injuncted for causing riots, an intent to incite related to an actual issue in healthcare. I won that, but it took 8 weeks to get it won. So they shut me down. They succeeded, but they give me time to work on something else. I'm bringing more people with me this time. It's going to get the message out there. Just letting you know, because this is going to be recorded. This will be released tonight, and then tomorrow you'll be able to hear it in 2 parts on Spotify and Amazon and anywhere you get a podcast. So that's what's happening. That's where we're at. But that was a story that I told that got me injuncted immediate. It was no wait for it. I mean, they were waiting for me to do it. I'd already advertised that I was, and they hit me with it. I did, though, lose my number 23 account on TikTok because of it, but number 24 is up and running, and it's fine. It's what we do. Right. So there's that. So that's what's going to happen. I don't know how y'all feel about it. Where Kentucky Renegade, of course, is in Kentucky, close to Indiana, on the river. And Brooks is in the Pacific Northwest. So what is it? Is it going to change from one part of the country to the other? It shouldn't, but is it?
It will.
Yeah, I think your different regions have their different, political views and climate, issues type stuff. We have a lot of rural, critical access hospitals in my area. If they start losing funding, there's going to be a problem. And I also work in a larger, I wouldn't say urban, but semi-urban area, and we're busy. And you add all the critical access, all the walk-in type stuff, and it doesn't take long before we're overwhelmed.
Right.
It's
what about
same
your
here?
part of the country?
Yeah, here in Kentucky, I'm right across the river from Evansville, which is a large metropolitan area. You got about 350,000 people in this area alone. We're known as Little Chicago because all the stuff that goes on in Chicago, they come here. So we have tons of gangs down here now. We got shootings every day. We have the hospital I used to work at was a level 1 trauma center. They're taking in gunshots almost every night, gunshot wounds. And the outskirts of where I live, they have tons of rural hospitals and stuff like that. And I see they're going to go under as well.
It's going to happen everywhere. I mean, I wasn't making light of it. I mean, it's just part of what it's doing. Let me cut my phone off. That's my other son. Apparently, it's check on Daddy Day. I think that's the part everybody's missing. And something else I want to clarify here. When I talk about nursing homes, you have to understand the age in nursing homes now is not an average of 80. The average age of a nursing home resident at this point in time in our history is 56.
Wow.
So like where I'm where I work, I do long-term care. It's just, I give me my grandma and grandpas, give me my dementia patients, because you only get, a few times in your life where you get more than one chance to make a first impression. And sometimes you'll get 4 or 5 a day. So it works out that way. It's a little inside joke with healthcare workers, but to which Renegade, which I didn't give props to a while ago, he was a patient care technician for 21 years in psych for 5 or 6 years. That's huge. That's longer than the average. So he's been through the mill too, just in a different time frame, and made it to the first of the pandemic.
I did. Yeah, I did 5.5 years working in the emergency room, and then the rest, I did a few years as supervisor of a transport department, and then 11 years in psych and addictions.
Whew. I didn't think I could do it for 5 years, much less 11. But yeah, everybody up in this panel tonight has medical experience. Currently, me and Brooks are both nurses active in the field. But when you talk about the average age of a nursing home resident, between 56 and 60, depending on the part of the country that you're in, depending on how rough people were on their bodies. Apparently, in the rural areas, they were a lot rougher on their bodies, but a lot of that has to do with drug addictions and incompetent medical care and incompetent and incoherent patients that didn't follow through. They went to go get a quick fix, or they went to go get their prescription of narcotics filled, and that's what they used them for. And now it's down there paying the piper for their stuff. But that's what we're talking about. It doesn't just leave to the rural access critical hospitals. You've got the same age group that would access the ER if they could. It's in the nursing home, and if we can't access them, the hospitals can't access them. They're not probably don't come out of a nursing home now because the federal government rules, which is what we're going to really get into here shortly. But the rules make it to where you can't just send them out anymore. You plight near get them in the critical condition that you can't actually take care of in the long-term care region. You got to send them somewhere, and if you got to get it early enough, you got to train the staff early enough. But the seasoned nurses all quit. Their seasoned nurses are very few of us left in the field, strictly because of mandates, an injection nobody wanted to take.
Yeah, a lot of people quit.
I know a lot of nurses that went into. I know a lot of nurses that went into realty. They all got into the real estate game and got away from nursing.
Because it's not the stuff I've been talking about on this podcast in particular is not medicine as we knew it. It's not anymore. And nobody's accepting that part of it. That's what bothers me more than anything is we can all, from people that's worked in that side, can see it. The people on the outsides only hear what the government wants them to hear.
Yeah.
And they're doing everything every day to destroy this field. I'm tired of it. What started the whole thing with the destruction of the nurses was the Redonda Vault case in Tennessee, and tried her for murder and found her guilty. And they did plant the seeds of doubt in the most trusted profession in the country, which is nursing. And when I say that, I mean registered nurses, licensed practical nurses, patient care technicians, CNAs, mental health technicians. All nursing is nursing. All of us do the same job. Yeah. Different license, different pays, all of that across the board. Nobody gets paid enough to do what we do. I'll say that off the bat. So when you lose the experience, and I was a new nurse, I didn't know everything. But when you got just new nurses, the risk of a mistake killing you is tenfold.
Yeah.
And that's the point I've been trying to get across. And I've been kind of successful at it. Apparently they don't like it because they adjuncted me for a while, but you can't not talk about this and not have the government part of it involved because they're the ones that control it. 64's Medicare Act made sure they had their hands to dabble in medicine from now on, and they have, and they've not wasted any time doing it. I don't know what you're seeing where you're at, Brooks, as far as supplies, but what I'm seeing is second rate medical supplies come through.
It's kind of hard to say, because anytime you get used to a particular, whether it's an IV start kit or whatever else, you get used to the quality, you get used to the brand, and then they just switch it up for something cheaper. And that just happens time and time again. I don't even notice it. I mean, I barely notice it anymore. They've been doing that for years and years and years. But I will say that the quality of medical care that we give is pretty good. I'm not going to lie, which is like, it's so good that I don't know how this is sustainable. Like, how can we continue to provide this level of medical care for non-paying taxpayers? For people, I mean, we have to make some changes in the healthcare system with our homeless situation, with our drug addictions. Back in the day when Reagan was in office, we had tons of mental health facilities. They've closed those. They've, started, drug. I don't even know what they call it anymore. I mean, we don't have any. Our rehab facilities are lacking. There's just not enough of them. There's not enough qualified personnel. I don't know what we're doing in the healthcare system, because like right now, our number one thing that I see is drug addiction, methamphetamines, fentanyl, heroin. I mean, dude, freaking potheads, dude. These guys, like, I was pro pot. I was back in the day. I'm not anymore. We got to make that shit illegal. It's a gateway drug. It's the devil. I mean, I've never seen so many youth with zero direction. They're like, whatever, bro. I'm like, I don't know what to say. We need some fire under these kids' ass. I don't know what to say. It's just, and the healthcare services are not available. If you're a vet and you're homeless and you have drug addiction through, pain, opiate addiction,
right,
through whatever, dude, good luck to you, bro. There's no services available to you, bro, at all. Here's a Tylenol. Boom. Cut it in half. Get the hell out of here. Follow up with, the shelter in the morning. But they're overran. They don't have, there's no services. There's no money there.
If there's even a shelter anywhere.
If there's a shelter, it's not good.
Yeah, they're closing too. These group.
Well, I can tell you the addiction center that I was working at, we had a program called Help for Heroes, and we took care of the active duty military, the veterans, and first responders. Now, they would come to us. The VA, of course, was paying out the ass to send the guys there, and our facility was just abusing it, just getting the money, and they weren't really even doing anything for them other than sitting them in a room, having them talk, and then color and play games. That was their form of rehab. So imagine guys from Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, some kick-ass Marines, some special operators and stuff like that, sitting in a room, coloring and playing games. And they were all frustrated with the VA because they were just shelling out the money for them to come to our facility to be basically made a joke of.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a disgrace. It wasn't a help for a hero. I mean, trust me, I did everything I can to talk to them, and we had conversations. I also had to go get certified from a VA to deal with veterans who had TBI and had post-traumatic stress from wartime and stuff like that. But all in all, these facilities are going to take advantage of the VA if they're going to shell out millions of dollars just to send a couple people over to your program that you call Help for Heroes, and you sit them in a room to color. I mean, that's not any kind of therapy whatsoever.
No, sounds to me like it's a cheap way out of the federal grant money. And you get
they need affordable housing. They need affordable housing. They need to go fishing. They need to be able to swipe the card and get food. And that's about it, man. They don't need much, but the way inflation and the housing market, I don't even know how people do it.
I know the current system hadn't worked in years. When they have to sit and wait hours and hours and hours for a 20-minute visit. And they can't ever find their paperwork when they get there. I had that happen with a friend of mine. We went, supposed to be in a visit at 8:30. They had him on the list, but didn't have any of his paperwork there. I don't know how you not have paperwork when you know it's sent over. And then we had to wait for him to get the paperwork from the other clinic, which was closed that day. So it was ridiculous, the wait that they had to endure. And now you're right. But how do we pay for something like that? Oh, wait. Oh, didn't we send like billions to a foreign country? Wouldn't that be a start?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Everybody's seen any part of the country, especially if you're in the rural area or even probably in the Northwest, those little barns that they build. Why don't we make one-room houses out of them and make neighborhoods where we can, at least have an area for them to go. And then you could just send the psychologist into the community instead of worrying about going to a clinic somewhere. That's my take on the homeless vet situation. Tiny homes. I mean, there's one
a bunch of abandoned. There's a bunch of abandoned strip malls. Turn that into, a place for them to live at and have their therapy sessions.
Or all these closed nursing homes and hospitals. We can turn one of those little rooms into apartments. Right. One bed, one bath. I mean, little kitchenette in there.
Well, the money certainly is there, but then you're going along those 15-minute cities because you're going to have to pool all these gentlemen together. So exactly. We got to be worried about that because we can even follow in that same because it'd be so easy. Right. Let's get all these homeless people right here. And you can have a psychologist right there at a little food mart.
Right.
We don't sell them alcohol or drugs. So
yeah, I mean I'll draw back all the time. I mean, my grandma always told me the road to hell was paved with good intentions. But it becomes the same thing. And it does do the 15-minute cities. I mean, that's the one thing of all of these quote unquote conspiracy theories that actually is over my shoulder that I'm always constantly thinking about. How easy it was for them to do it in other countries. I don't know if it'd be that easy here, but it won't have to be hard here, just longer. Just wait them out, starve them out.
Talking basically to a lot of people, like a conservative aunt, I talked to him. I talked to Three Rose. I've talked to Harley. And all in their areas, they're being slick about it as they're building all these new subdivisions that are the 15-minute city concept. So that's how they will get you. It won't be like the high rises in China. They're going to do it in small facilitated neighborhoods.
Right.
Because there's no way that we're going to fall for it. They'll know too many people are going to catch on to it real quick.
Yeah. Well, since it's the Lumen thing, I think everything that they're doing as far as quote unquote healthcare goes. So you've got them pushing the staffing law, which is totally, in a perfect world, it's a perfect theory according to that law, but it's not a perfect world and it's not reachable. That law would have been reachable 5 years ago. It's not reachable now because even now, the numbers are 290,000 short. And the staffing rules, Senate Bill 1578 or 1576, I can't remember the last two digits. It made it out of the committee and went straight to discussion. And they probably will do it and get it passed. They've passed other Democrat-sponsored bills. But anything that would crush the system, that would. That one rule will crush every sector of healthcare if the staffing rules stick. I mean, they're not obtainable. They're good practice in certain departments, but when you start breaking off into there's too many other variables for staffing. Because if I got 10 patients and 6 of them are going home the next day, I can do that.
Yeah.
But they're wanting to limit you to 6 patients, period. Every nurse gets 6 patients, or every nurse gets 3 patients. And at the current shortage, we're only 290. We're only 290,000 short now. If you implement that program, it's 400,000 without a doubt overnight short.
I mean, I'm all for staffing ratios type stuff. But yeah, who's going to pay for it? Is the government going to pay for this added staffing type stuff? I mean, where are you going to get these people? I mean,
Right.
One of the reasons I became a nurse is because I knew that my job would be pretty guaranteed. And so it's great for me. But, what are you going to do when they can't afford to staff those people? I was a director of nursing, and sometimes I had to work my 40-hour as a director, and then I was working 3 days a week so I can continue that 24-hour RN, on site type stuff. And I was exhausted, man, freaking exhausted.
Oh yeah.
And so it's a challenge. I like where their head's at. But we also have a whole lot more people in the system right now. People that are, the baby boomers are up there, and we have all kinds of needs. That's all I'm gonna say. It needs.
Well, I hadn't seen the adjusted numbers yet, but the numbers before the pandemic, the retirement per day of the baby boomers in the first part of Gen X was like 14,000 a day retiring.
Yeah, they're just getting out, man.
And out of that, you're looking at what, 1,000 a month or 1,000 every quarter that have to end up in long-term care or end up in an LTAC because they had an unforeseen abdominal surgery that has to be left open and all this crazy stuff that happens in this field. And then you want to staff people that you don't have. And then they cut out what you can count and what you can't count. I mean, it's a good idea, but it needs to be a little more. Mm-hmm. Ask the people working on the damn floors. Ask the nurses that are doing the damn job.
Yeah. And
you'll figure out real quick, it's not the amount of patients that you got, it's the acuity of each patient that you've got.
Yeah.
You just need one staffing standard based on acuity.
Yeah.
You might get by better with it, but the funding is going to always be the thing because the corporations, the CEOs, the boards, they're going to get their pay.
They're getting paid. They're getting paid big. You look at all these organizations, they're uppity ups, not doing any patient care. Tons of money. Tons of COVID money.
And none of it went to the communities that it was sent to.
Nope.
It went to the pockets of the CEOs and the board members.
Oh,
they can say what they want to say. You can say I'm inciting them. I'm just the truth. I'm sure some went to the bonus employees, and they forced the hand of the healthcare field. Renegade was one of the ones that stepped aside. I mean, he kept his morals, stuck to his senses, and kept a balls about him enough to say, I'm not taking this shot. I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
Find somebody else to work it. And that's what happened. He's not the only one. That's the thing. There was almost 2 million nurses in the nursing field. Again, RNs, LPNs, CNAs, patient care technicians, mental health technicians, all these people that are required to take care of patients in these facilities. It's about 2 million of them quit.
Yep.
That's huge. Yeah. And I've heard not one politician talk about it. I've heard no state attack it. I get the idea. Our message is out there about safe staffing ratios, but you got to have the staff to have the ratios, and we don't have the staff.
Yep.
Well, I know before COVID even hit, just in the hospital I was working at for psych and addictions, we didn't have the staff, but they were paying outrageous amount of money for travel nurses to come in, and they couldn't even keep them. I mean, for us, like on our night shift, we had 2 nurses and 2 techs per unit, and there's 2 units. One was a psych unit, one was the addictions unit. And half the time you didn't even have 2 nurses. You would have 1 nurse on each unit and then a float, which was a LPN that would float between the floors. And then half the time you didn't even have 4 techs. You would have maybe 2 on one side and 1 on the other. And then you had to deal with state level hospital patients, people that were losing their shit and, throwing stuff at staff, attacking other patients. And you're constantly spending the night holding people down in holds, but you didn't have enough people there.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere. That's the story that's the story we're hearing all over the country. And I say I'm involved with the National Nurses March and all that stuff. And we have these chat rooms that I go into for information for the show. But the thing is, when you have all of these shortage here, they're not doing anything to push it. This brings up this point. I don't know. Did y'all see the Inspector General? I know Brooks is aware. We've watched everything on this. How do 7,600 people buy a degree, buy a transcript, and still pass the nursing boards? Number one. Number two, we're not talking about in the last year. Some of these nurses have been nurses for 10 years. How did that slip through the system in the states that they're supposed to do the inspection on it?
As far as taking the boards go, I mean, that's just like a bunch of information that could be learned through a book, just like anything else. You've heard people taking the bar, for their, to be an attorney type stuff, and they studied for a month doing it. So the information can be repeated, obviously. But yeah, like getting the accreditation from an actual nursing school.
And that's my point.
These guys, they were good, man. They figured it out. I don't know how they did it, but every now and then I run into a nurse. I'm just wondering, man, like, where did you get your degree from? Because and some of them are travelers and like even nice people, but you just wonder. You're like, there's just something not right about this one. So I would say I'd be concerned, if I was your average, person. Under the care of a nurse, I'd say you might want to quiz them a little bit, just kind of figured it out, because I've seen some scary ones out there, and I've, tried to alert, my managers and stuff and just say, hey, I think they need more education. I don't come out and say, yeah, I think this person got their degree from Florida, but I kind of like, we should probably check into this one.
Right. Right. Well, my thing is, I thought the board was supposed to do all this background check on you.
They're not.
And they would have found that it wasn't a real transcript, because they would have asked, like they do now, for the transcript. They're not getting them.
Yeah.
So was it more important to the state boards to get that annual renewal fee and that processing fee to start with, and pay for the NCLEX? Because I know you can do NCLEX for dummies, and I've run across the same nurses, Brooks. I know what nurses you're talking about. But my thing is, where did the breakdown happen? Nobody's asked that question yet. It's all been tear down the nurse that stole the degree. They found a flaw in the system, and it worked for years. It's not no new thing.
Yep.
But those of us like, man, it was hard. Nursing school was the hardest shit I've ever been through in my life.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that the work was hard. It's not that the information was hard. It was the stress they put you under and the pressure they put you under.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They make you think. I guess in some ways you're curing cancer, but they make you really feel like you're curing cancer. You got to know all this stuff. I remember, in my lab just shaking, as I was trying to pour normal saline into a sterile field, like my instructor, all 5'2", 100 pounds of pure mean. And I was scared to death of them. I tell you what.
Yeah. Well, we have one. She was average, sweet lady, nurse, go. Problem was that she was the Army sergeant nurse for 15 or 20 years. And Jesus. But yeah, I went through the same thing.
Uh,
You better know the drugs have a drug card going.
oh my gosh. Inside and out. You got to know them all. And you better know it before the morning. It's it was crazy.
Right.
But you know what? Good times. I enjoyed my nursing experience. I think I was trained pretty well. And I don't know.
I've retired twice. I just can't stay out of it. I must like it. So
there's such a need. It's kind of hard to, when you're able-bodied, even though you don't want, like you put in your time, but
right.
when there's something there and, I don't know, the pay is okay, whatever. I don't know. It depends on where you're at. I'm a travel nurse because I might as well get paid for it, but right. I travel pretty locally. I stay within like a 2-hour, 3-hour drive of where my hometown is, because I got, I'm a single dad and got to be there for my kids.
Yeah, I think we're all in that boat in this room right now. All of us single, all right?
Yep.
I'm not wrong here, right?
I mean, you're married, though, aren't you?
Let me know. Well, I'm married on TikTok. That is not the same thing. I got a TikTok wife. That's not the same thing. I promise you it's not.
Yeah, it's like a work wife.
See, we don't have to worry about paying bills together. We don't have to worry about sex because that's not happening in the distance it is. We get to argue and bitch each other out, and then it just going about our business. So it works. It's perfect. Perfect relationship. The perfect marriage right there. Jesus.
There we go.
Lord God.
I had to start the shit with you.
Huh?
So I had to start the shit with you.
I know it. Shit. I knew it was coming at some point. Shit. So when we get to that, let's branch off just a minute. What do you think is going to happen? Alarm went off. What's going to happen with the 60,000 pounds of ammonia that's gone missing? The satellite phones have just been distributed out to the government in just a lot of 50. I don't damn well think 50 they are. I'm sure they had 100 phones because there's 100 senators. I don't think 50 took them. It looks like now I went to the junior senators. So 50 phones went to the junior senators who still answer to the governors of the state.
Yep.
So those were intended for the governor. Now you've got all of this other crap happening all over the world. You got a potential collapse of the dollar or the U.S. economy. I've already been limited to what I can pull out of the bank off of my card when I get paid. I'm limited.
Banks are doing that.
Huh?
So the banks are doing that, especially over in the UK. They've limited them to 1,000 pounds. That's all they can take out. Yeah,
I'm limited to $400 a day, period. Where I had unlimited, I could pull 400. I could only pull 400 at the time, but I could pull 400 if I needed to 3 or 4 times. I can pull 400 in 24 hours, and that's it.
Really? I haven't even checked. I'm gonna have to go down there right after this and go pull out $1,000 just to see.
Well, if you have Bank of America, you can only pull out $3,000.
Yeah, I knew that Bank of America is limited. I'm with Ally, and they're limited in what I can pull.
Interesting. Well, we've been talking about it for, I would say, a good couple of years, really. And so the fact that it's potentially right around the corner, I guess should not surprise us. But even then, though, it kind of does a little bit. You're like, I was hoping I was wrong. I
did. I really did think. I was hoping that a lot of this shit I'm seeing I was going to be wrong about. But
yeah.
Well, I mean, you just think about what's right around the corner. FedNow is supposed to go live July 1st. They continue not to raise the debt ceiling. You had this invasion at our border, and you have multiple sources down there talking about all these Venezuelan military-age males that are coming in. You have Chinese nationals. You have Ukrainian, Russian, Somalian, Sudan, Nigerian. They're all coming into this country with one purpose. And just think, they have these sat phones by Congress, and they're giving out cell phones to these people coming into this country illegally. what is that going to spell for everything? They're going to be communicating with the people on those sat phones to get their orders of what they need to do.
Oh, yeah. When I hear about these Chinese nationals, you think about China. You think it's easy to get out of the country of China. Like, hey, I just want to go to, New Mexico or blah, blah, blah. Dude, China doesn't let anybody out of their country unless they directly are okay with it. Why would they be okay with a bunch of military-aged males who could defect away from their country, like look for a better life? All of a sudden, they're rolling in Mexico, just crossing the border. And then, of course, all of the China land that is owned by the Republic of China, this is like vast areas of property right next to our national forest. And this Americans who would like these senators, they just like, oh, yeah, just sell more land in China. Oh, yeah, this got to be good for us.
Not to mention their own police stations.
Unbelievable. Oh, when I heard that, they got like, oh my God. And they sound like it's a good idea. Oh, we're just trying to take care of our population. Like, I don't know. I just know that roles reverse. We can't just roll into China and then buy a bunch of freaking farmland. I'm pretty sure it's not okay for an American to do that. Like, why is that? It makes sense. Why are we doing it?
Well, I know back in June of 2013, Obama over at the Central African Union seminar meeting, whatever they had over there at that point in time, gave China eminent domain over the U.S. because we can't pay them back. And that's what you're starting to see all around this country is all of and also Saudi Arabia was given eminent domain because we owe them. So that's why you're seeing a lot of Saudi Arabian land coming up and being taken from parts of this country. They're even taking the reservations away from the Native Americans.
Oh, yeah.
Giving it to the Chinese and the Saudis.
Yeah. National forest land, like owned by NATO type stuff. You're like, if you see a troop from China or whatever else, they own that property. You can't even open fire against them. Otherwise, you're in the wrong. Or I don't know. I'm just heard. I have not, but I'm just like, dude, that's crazy.
Yeah, and there's a Chinese general that actually had bought land down by one of the military bases in Texas and has his own landing strip that can land anything possible on that landing strip.
The only thing it won't land is a C-5, but it'll land every other size plane there is.
So why do we have that in this country? Why are we allowing other countries to occupy our land? It's all part of an invasion. It's all part of a design plan that they have.
That's the point. I'm looking at some information right this second. Have y'all noticed a disruption in the internet where y'all live?
Yeah. I mean, did you notice that Instagram went down for like 3 hours the other day?
Who? Instagram?
Yeah. So they're running some tests for, I think they're going to do another like a power grid down situation as well. I think we will see that 10 days of darkness.
Yeah, and I think the reference to the long cold winter is this year. I think when we start talking about this kind of stuff, you have to go back to understanding the agendas that have happened and why some of them didn't happen and why some of them did. I'm going to leave the agenda discussion with Renegade right quick so you can understand what we're talking about and why the internet and the dollar and all this stuff's happening now. So it's got to do with these agendas, Agenda 2030, Agenda 2025, Agenda 2040. But the one agenda that got messed up was due to an election. Renegade, will you please, because I don't study the agenda parts except for the healthcare side of them, where you've studied the bigger picture of them. So if you want to explain that. give you the floor for that.
They didn't have the intention of Trump winning the election. What they discounted in that election was the independent voters. So that's why you've seen Trump get into office, and they were not anticipating this. They thought that Clinton was going to be a sure landslide over Trump. And when he won, they knew they were in trouble for the simple fact that he was going to start exposing everything. And that's what he started doing. So he exposed their plans and a lot of the things that were going on. So they changed it from Agenda 2021 and backed it to 2030. And as you've seen 2030 come out, they started doing the plan. They did a Event 201 with the pandemic, and they already ran a simulation. And so while, of course, he's in office, they run the Event 201, and they have the pandemic coming into play. And so they backed everything to 2030. Now you have a new thing called Event 2025, where now they are going to push what they seem to be like another simulated pandemic. But it's not going to happen in 2025. What we are seeing is the lead up to that. And I believe with all these people coming across this border, we know that the Boston University, they came up with a new version of Omicron and Delta. They made it like a 80% fatality. So I'm almost betting and guaranteeing that at some point in time, you're going to see another pandemic come through that border. They're going to be carrying the vials of this stuff. I mean, even University of Maryland had the researchers create and develop a deadlier strain of monkeypox. So you're going to see a lot of different things come through. I think, Gray, we were talking about the dengue fever. I think that'll be another thing that we'll see. I think we're going to see multiple things come out.
Oh, look, we're going to be in a different format now. Yeah, one thing about all of the areas that are coming across the border is dengue fever is one of the primary ones from those parts of the world. I'm not sure that that's going to be the main one. I'm starting to do a lot of research on this SEERS, SEERS.
SEERS and then SPARS.
This respiratory virus is a combination of what we're currently having plus RSV.
Yep.
Yeah,
I think it'll be the adult RSV is what I think we'll see a lot of, because they want to take out more adults than they do the kids now. I think they will go after the kids, but I think they will go after our group of people, people between ages of 40 on to 60, because they know that we can outman them and out-army them.
Mainly, we can outthink them. It's our backyard. The one our parents kicked us into at 8 o'clock and told us don't come home till dark.
Right.
It's our backyard. And that's what they can't control that. And they can't control that set of population, and they can't control the amount of long rifles, and they can't control the amount of bows and arrows, and they can't control who knows how to use them and who don't. And I'm going to say it, and I know it's an unpopular thing to say. We've got teenagers that can shoot a bow and arrow better than any man I've seen. I don't think they won't take up for their families, especially in the South, especially in the areas of the wilderness where Brooks lives. There's a whole set of folks up yonder, I have found out, especially in that state. Because one half of that state is one way, one half is another way. And I didn't realize that there was as many rednecks up there, but there really is. No offense. None at all. I mean, I don't mean any offense. That's a term of endearment, in my opinion.
Hell yeah, brother.
That's all that Eastern Oregon, Eastern Washington, and Idaho. You got Wyoming and you got Montana up there as well. So.
Yeah, but you got that whole
guys just like me.
Yeah, I mean it's going to be unlike anything I think any country's ever thought, because these foreign countries study on an invasion process here. Hashimoto's the only one that had it figured out, in my opinion. that behind every blade of grass will be a gun. But now I think it's more like behind every blade of grass will be 3 rifles, 2 pistols, 6 bow and arrows, a fishing arrow. Yeah, but you can't even sneak up in water because we got those that can shoot you in the water and make the adjustment in the film sight on their eyes. So it's going to be hard. It's not impossible. I didn't say it was going to be impossible for them. Give them a little credit, but it's going to be hard as hell.
But you got to remember,
and I don't think Joe Biden was talking about the United States military when he said you're going to have an F-15 to defeat that army. He didn't say our army or the U.S. Army. He said that army.
Yeah. And remember, from our generation of kids, we had the Red Dawn movies. So it's a, 80s kids dream. Go ahead and, Red Dawn will fucking Wolverine your ass all the way back.
Well, yeah. I've noticed a lot of more Krakens and Wolverines on the TikTok stickers.
Yep. But that's the thing about the Gen X generation is we're a resilient generation, and they probably should have waited another 5 to 10 years to do all this shit, because we're at the age now where we can still fight, and we still have a leg in the contest.
Y'all can speak for yourself. I'm the older one here. We already had this guy. If something goes down, you see David run, you see this fat fucker here running, everybody better start running because it's bad.
Because you're not going to run. You're going to sit behind with your sniper rifle. You're just going to be sitting there just like, boom, one down, boom. I mean, eventually you're going to get got. It's just the way it is. But
yeah. Well, I might do that to start with because they'll be way, way off because I have a 500 mag. I don't want them getting real close to it. I can get them way out yonder if I want to. The problem is if a tank comes up over the hill and I start running, that means everybody needs to start running in the entire country.
Yeah, but then that's when you watch some of these veterans that are doing some videos. I don't know if you've seen some of them, but how to disable a tank and how to disable the
sticky bomb.
The platoon of people coming with them. Just take out the engineers and they're fucked.
Yeah. Or can just do like they did the Pazers and just shoot them from the rear.
Yeah.
That's where the
that's the thing is, honestly, if I was going to invade the United States, first of all, just let us do it ourselves. I mean, it seems like there's such a polarization between the left and the right. Dude, both sides are ready to go almost at any time. And then you got your, mainstream media, they're fanning the flames, getting everybody all pissed off. When the fact is if we sat down and talked about it, really any issue, like corruption, absolutely. We don't want it, whether it's right or left. Abortion, you know what? Even the people on if you actually talk about it, they're like, we're not okay with a baby being 6 months old and, having full function of all their, appendages. But they keep us divided. They won't let us talk. It's not okay for us to talk. We can't actually hash it out to where we actually we actually get along on this site, but it's not like that. The politics is ridiculous. We can't figure anything out. We don't even know what bathroom to use, for God's sakes.
Well, we don't know what a woman is, apparently.
They literally fucking doctors, PhDs, and fucking they literally get on Congress, national fucking TV, and they're like, "Can you define a woman?" Like, I'm sorry, can you put that in a sentence? And I'm like, bro, we have to be we can't be going backwards. We cannot be going backwards hundreds of years. It's just unbelievable. Why can't we talk and like this, ration it out? Like, okay, we're going to use big boy terms now, big boy words, because guess what? Words matter. What's happening right now matters. Our national defense, our country's in shambles, and we can't figure out who should be able to play female sports. How is that possible? I do not want my daughter playing against biological males. We're just bigger and stronger and better at everything. It's just the way it is. I didn't make the rules. We have women's sports for a reason. How is it that Times Woman of the Year was a man? the first person was a man. And like, as a original feminist, I'm appalled. Where are our feminist women? You know, where are they? Like, who's going to speak for? Anyways, it's just, dude, I'm going to go on a rant.
That's what this is for, Brooks. Go on a rant.
Freedom. I just can't deal with this craziness.
Well, my thing is, they kept talking about, well, there's 3,692 sexes in this country. And I said, well, in your world, it might be. The problem I have is I start counting and I can't get past 2.
Yeah.
Period.
The rest is just mental illness, and they don't want to accept that.
Well, and here's the thing, and I know this is fact. Nobody gave a damn what you wore. I don't care if you was a man and wore a skirt. That was your thing to cross-dress. Go for it. Right? I think the problem now is now they've taken it and stolen the bathrooms.
Yeah.
They're indoctrinating children in the classrooms with it. And now they're trying to remove women. Period.
Well, I mean, you think about this, it goes all the way back. People don't realize how far back this shit goes. You know, you had LBJ back in the 60s. He was attacking and going after the nuclear family to get the man out of the home. That way, the woman and the children would be living off social services and all the EBT and all that bullshit. Okay, so fast forwarded to now. Now they're taking out the women and separating the women because the man's out of the home now. So the protectors are no longer there to protect the family. So now they're going after the woman and attacking her so they can separate the woman from the children. And this is where they're going after the children, is now that the woman is being emasculated, or however you want to say it, defeminized, because men want to be women and they want to portray that shit. They got the women away from the children. So now they have the children in these schools being indoctrinated, being groomed, and the mom's not there, the father's not there, and the children are exposed to this bullshit that they want to continue to push.
Dude, I'm dating a CPS investigator, right? She works for Child Protective Services. This is who she works for. And she's telling me about the LGBTQ freaking, like, in her own, at her own job. Like, if a kid wants to transition, like, boom, we'll pay for it. Absolutely. Like, right to the chopping block. No therapy. And it's just all about, let's get you on some hormones. Let's get you on this. Let's get you on that. And this is from our own government. And she's just like, she's conservative. She's like, she doesn't want to hurt anybody. But she's like, I don't know if I can deal with this, because it's just jammed down her throat. And just like us at our work, he comes into the emergency room and we got to call her a she, this and that. And so, like, what if she wants to be worked up for having a miscarriage? Am I supposed to just like jump like a bitch in heat and just like, oh, okay, I don't know. Like, do I set up for a pelvic? What am I doing here? Like, really?
I never thought about having to do a workup. Like, goddamn, I didn't even think about that shit, Brooks. Are you?
Yeah, think about it.
I guess so. If they can have periods now, they must want to work up. Shit, I never thought.
Yeah. What if they're saying they're having a miscarriage and you're not all like, well, be like, sorry, bro, you're a dude. You don't have a uterus. Like, is that like against, like protocol? Am I breaking any rules? What, what if he bleeds out right out of his makeshift vagina that he never even bothered to get surgically removed anyways? It's just like, what are we supposed to do here? Like, I had a male just this last week. I'm half tempted. I'm half expecting to get a call and say I'm going to get fired for this. Like, anyways, a male comes in, suicidal ideations, crazy stuff, this and that. Anyways, we need to get a urine sample. And I handed him a urinal and he lost his mind. And I'm just like, am I going to get fired for this? Like, is that possible? Could I lose my job for handing a male a urinal when I should have gave him a commode with a hat and gender reaffirm him and give him some of those wet wipes, so he can, wipe off his makeshift vagina, which he doesn't have because he has balls. What am I supposed to do here, guys? Anyways,
I don't have an answer because I never even thought about having to do a workup for a damn man to be pregnant.
Oh, honestly, afterwards, I was like, literally, I'm waiting for a phone call from my employer saying, "Hey, Brooks, you're out of here, bro. You just got canceled because you gave a male, trans, female a urinal. Was that insensitive of me? I don't know. Anyway,
right? I mean,
it's clown world. This is what we're living in. I mean, it's unreal that we can't define what a fucking man or a fucking woman is, and that they continue to have this, I don't know, fucking imaginary world that a guy can just immediately walk into a women's restroom and use the restroom without any kind of consequences when we know exactly why that fucking person is going in there to begin with.
Yeah. And here's the other deal. If he rapes your daughter while he's in there, brutally fucking rapes her, you're a bigot if you freaking had a problem with him going into the bathroom to begin with. And the chances are, like, you can go to jail afterwards for expressing your frustration with the system and why your daughter wasn't protected. And it's just like, I don't know how more of these people are just getting jacked up before, if you follow my daughter into the bathroom, I'm going to jail that day, dude. I'm going to jail. It's just, I don't know what to tell you. I'll stop them. Like, you're going to wait. My daughter's going to finish. And then while no one else is in there, whatever, man, but not with another daughter, not with a female inside that bathroom.
These companies should just go ahead and have the multi-use bathroom with a lock on it. With the baby thing on the wall for the males and females to use, or if daddy and a mom and a baby and a toddler go in there, they can all go in there together. The safety measures are still there. They can lock the door and keep people from the outside coming in, and just have those everywhere and get rid of these male water closets and female water closets, and just have a family water closet and be done with it.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go. If they have opportunity for that third bathroom, you can put that trans friendly. But male, you should be a male. Female, you should be a female. That's just the way it is. And just understand, if you use the wrong bathroom, there might be some problems. I don't know what to say. Like, put a disclaimer. You could be at risk of using the wrong bathroom. That's all that we're going to say.
Well, I know that it was a big deal one time when me and my wife, the female restroom was closed. The only one there was the male restroom. I said, "Hey, go pee in there." Shit, I watched the door. So, I mean, that was before they had the family bathroom in there. But
well, this is part of the division. They want to keep those bathrooms that way so that somebody has a problem, they do something stupid, then it's just even more shit that they can put down on people who are against that community.
Yeah, I don't care what people do, to be honest with you. If they want to dress like a woman and go get their dick cut off and have a pois put in down there, that's their business. If they're old enough, if they're over the age 18 and they've met all the criteria for the surgery, go for it. Damn, go for it.
Well, I'd be willing to go. I don't know. Like I said, there are people in the community that literally think that my arm, that is not my arm. I want it chopped off, right? And do we as a community, a healthcare community, do we just go sign them up? Absolutely, arm's got to go. It doesn't belong to you. No, we do not. And so I would say whatever restrictions will keep an orthopedic surgeon from lopping off this perfectly beautiful freaking arm right there, whatever restrictions that is, that's what it should go for the gender reassignment surgery. I mean, plain and simple. They're not going to just sign you up. Absolutely, Brooks. The arm's got to go. I can see what you're saying. No. What would that surgeon require for a person to lop off their arm? I guarantee it's not like, one appointment with CPS. Don't worry, your parents don't need to know about it. We're going to sign you up for hormones. We're going to get your stuff lopped off next week because we don't want you to hurt yourself. Like, well, okay. As a taxpayer,
to me, it would fall under the plastic surgery model. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to be honest about it. If they're 18 years old, they're able to pay for the surgery. I don't want my tax dollars to pay for it.
Yep.
I'd rather my tax dollars pay for something, I don't know, Cipro.
Yeah.
Something we know that actually works.
Yeah. Ivermectin.
Ivermectin. Yes. For everybody. I think everybody needs 18 milligrams of ivermectin. Everybody needs to take just one dose and get started. Mm-hmm. You know, but I can think of it, if they're old enough and they got the money to pay for it and they meet the criteria, which means you went to a psychiatrist and you definitely dealt with your dysphoria, because that's what it is. It's a dysphoric vision of themselves. I mean, you've got the ones like Bruce Jenner, Caitlyn Jenner, who sat out there and make good common sense and guess what? He's had all that done. He went through all that. He went through years of therapy before he even got to that point. Maybe he was guided that way. I don't know. He sure does make a lot of sense to me when he talks. I actually listen to him because he went through all that. If you're old enough and you pay for it yourself and you've been through all the therapy and it's what's going to make you feel better about yourself, by all damn means, go for it. There'll be doctors there to take your money. They always will be. Because we're in the business of medicine. We don't do medicine anymore. We don't do natural healing anymore. We're in the business of medicine. And there'll be somebody to take your money.
Yep. But so at least wait till they're 18.
Don't indoctrinate my grandchildren, which I can't believe I'm saying that now. Don't indoctrinate my grandchildren. Don't indoctrinate other people's children to try to get what you want in a guise of healthcare. It's not going to work because too many of people like me running around here. This screen is enough for you to understand the people that need to be heard haven't even started talking yet.
Yep. Just the line is the kids. Leave the kids alone. Leave them out of it. It's an adult decision. Right. You want to do that shit, you do that. And the things that they're indoctrinating these kids in schools of trying to make P3POs to be normalized as maps, that shit needs to go too, because we all know what a predator is, and it's not going to fucking change a damn thing to leave the kids.
And the predator of children's no different than the predator of females, and it's no different than the predators of males. I did an episode, and I couldn't even do a full episode on it. I could not believe there are female predators out there. It makes sense now. That was not a rabbit hole that I was ready to go down. It's unbelievable. And it's the amount of it that was hidden. The headlines were hidden. You know, for a while you heard about it. You know, this teacher having an affair with the student. I mean, that was a big deal. And then all of a sudden you don't hear about it no more. But yet, when I started doing the research, I found so much more information than I even expected to. And we're talking about small numbers either. It's huge.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Problem in this country.
I think when I was looking at it, it was like 62% of the teachers that have relationships with the students are female.
Yes. I think the numbers I saw 68. But yeah, it's that high of a number. Mm-hmm. Well, you're above 20%, in my opinion. It's that high a number. That's already a high number. Because I don't send them to school to have to sit and worry about whether their female teacher's going to rape my son, but that's what I had to worry about.
Yep. Especially if they're good-looking sons like I've got, man. I got to worry about my boys.
Well, right. Like, you know, okay, so it's probably not that if my kid had come to me at 17 and told me done it, I would be mad as hell, don't get me wrong. But you know, we got to face the fact that some things we're just going to give them a high five about.
Right.
Because I was a single dad, right. But that also has to do with how did you raise them? Did you teach them? Because, did you teach them? Were they respectful? I always got compliments at school. And every time I'd go to school, when my kids would have an issue with something and they would call me to the school, your kids are so nice. They're so respectful. Who the hell kids are you talking about? They ain't mine.
Yeah.
You know, but that's the kind of stuff I worry about. Not Well, did you carry your condom to school in case your science teacher decides she's going to boff you in the bathroom today? That is not how I raise my kids.
No.
You know, now my kids, I've got a grandchild on the way. I've got a 2-year-old granddaughter. Now they're going to have to raise their kid to start out school to be on the lookout for predators. And if that's what we've deteriorated to, I want to reset that part. Because we grew up in, my era really was the transition of all age groups was, you were born between 68 and 74. Those 45 years right there saw everything happen at one time. Because I can remember growing up and hearing how bad the Berlin Wall was and then watching the damn thing come down. Mm-hmm. I heard how bad it was to be gay, and then, you know, it's pretty much accepted because we all ended up growing up with somebody that was that gay person that never came out of the closet. And you find out years later they were gay, and then everything about it made sense. And then you felt bad for some of the shit you said to them. Happened to me. I'm not perfect. But we had all of that. We saw all of that, and that's what was impressed me. And then our parents, of course, they kicked us out of the house to sundown. You know, if it wasn't raining. And if it got too hot, there's a garden hose, find some water to cut it on. But you tell them that you're going to borrow some water, and then you go on about your business because everybody knew who everybody's kids were. It was a community watch out thing because we'd be on bicycles. I had people pull over and tell me, you better get that bicycle out of the road. David, I'll call your mama. Yeah, well, you're going to call her anyway, so let me get the bicycle out of the road.
Yep.
That's how it was. And now that the very idea that my kids are going to have to teach my granddaughter and my grandson, watch out for the predators. This is what you look for. And we have opportunity to stop that now. And we're getting fight from I don't even think it's the liberal left. I think it's the insane modern invasion force that's going on now that's trying to normalize it all. Shit that's not normal.
The socialist aspect of it.
Well, yeah, and now we got by April 21st, he signed the executive order for the social credit score crap that's there. That was on April 21st, and you can look it up. I know there's going to be somebody watching or listening that's going to question it. Go look it up. It's right inside the executive order page on the whitehouse.gov. It's on April the 21st. It's a social credit score thing.
Well, it's like I told you about the ESG and the CEI, the Corporate Equality Index. This is why corporations such as Anheuser-Busch and Nike and Maybelline and Tampax are all going woke. It's a social credit score for corporations. This is how they're going to try and get us into the social credit scores to force our employers on us.
Right.
So if they force the corporations to cooperate with it, then they're going to make sure that the paycheck system goes through FedNow and make sure that we go on the social credit score.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they've already started with healthcare shutting us down from even talking about the shot for 2 years. But now the public health emergency is over with. So,
oh, yeah. You can't even talk about it. Even now, though, it's like.
Yeah, you can't talk about it on the clock.
Yeah.
But that don't stop me from when I'm off of the clock. Because right there. See, it's strictly an opinion. Strictly an opinion. I don't understand. What I do understand is we must have been right about the shots, because the one that every nurse was going to do is the one that got took out. And now the numbers are out, and it had it's like less than 3% now of vaccine injury from the Janssen shot. The other two are exponentially, when I say exponentially high, just from the minor damages that was reported, because I haven't seen any of the big ones reported yet. It's all just the minor immunization injuries that you've had. Site sterile abscesses was through the roof. Then, by the way, folks, there's no real such thing as a sterile abscess. But that's what was reported a lot. So I don't know where they got that from. There's no way you're going to tell me that 6% of the vaccine injuries that came in was sterile abscesses. That's not even a number that's right.
So did you happen to see where Mike Tyson made a slip up about Jamie Foxx?
And the stroke?
Yeah, having a stroke. Having it due to the pokey poke.
Yeah, 2 weeks prior he had the Pfizer immunization.
Yep.
Yeah.
And people
But there wasn't a question. The rehabilitation center that when they said he was going to that rehabilitation center, that is the stroke research rehabilitation center that the standards for the country are used in long-term care. That's the stroke module place. It's like, what's that hospital in Boston that did the cardiac, golden hour cardiac thing? Boston, they started at that, and that's who everybody looks for all the cardiac stuff. It comes out of John Hopkins. It comes out of John Hopkins. All of the stuff for cardiac comes out of John Hopkins. All of the stuff for stroke rehabilitation comes out of that rehab center. I already knew it was a stroke. His age group, my age group. And there ain't but one major cause of strokes right now in my age group, and that's Pfizer and Moderna.
Yep.
So it didn't take long to put together, but yeah, he messed up and hollered about the stroke. And then hollered about, got to do, huh? Okay, well, damn, Mike, just tell it all. Won't be long before you be with Coolio and them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I have to silence that message.
Yeah, got to shut that shit down now. But yeah, I mean, it's not even a moral question. I mean, we've got people, they have caused a divide in the country too with the flat earth theory and the heliospherical theory, and that's a theory. They're all theories. I've never been up and looked down. I don't know. It makes sense. If you look at all the facts on one side, it makes sense. If you look at all on the other side of it makes sense. So I kind of tend to lean that way. Didn't always, but growing up, getting older, and seeing what the truth is with who controls what we see in the books and who controls what we see on the news and who controls what we see in our documentaries. And the slip ups, just like Tyson, they've had Armstrong with a slip up, Arlen with a slip up. Now, if you go back and look at the Apollo mission in '69 and look at it going over the Earth, it's all flat. It's not round. There's no cave. It's flat. Then Elon Musk is on Joe Rogan the other day and says, it's flat and it's got a firmament. We can't break the firmament.
Yeah, he's been talking about going to Mars this whole time. Now he's just like, I don't think we can.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't think we can do it. It's permanent. I didn't know about all this stuff. And crazy.
Right. And then last night, a guy, we was in a live, and he kept asking me, well, how come I have to adjust my scope for the curvature of the Earth when I'm making a long? I said, because you're shooting an arch pattern. It's not the curvature of the Earth. If we're going to say this flat Earth, then you're shooting an arch pattern. Well, that's Pythagoras' theorem. I said, again, it's a theory. These students didn't solve a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Mm-hmm. They solved the fact that it's just a thinking man's theory. Mm-hmm. It causes you to think through a problem, not that mathematical problem.
Yeah.
Correct. And the thing of it is, we've been lied to so much. I mean, you cannot discredit anything about the flat Earth. Now, when I first started hearing about the flat Earth, I thought people were fucking nuts. But the more I started looking into it, I started questioning everything that they were saying, because I was like, now this is starting to make sense. Because when you have Buzz Aldrin coming out saying that was staged, I forgot the other guy that was with him. Armstrong, but the other one.
Shepherd.
No, not Shepard. It was a different one. I want to say his last name was Williams, but he was talking about it, and he said the same thing. Everything was staged back then because they were just trying to disprove the Russians even went to space.
Right. And then, a month ago, the Russian cosmonaut came out and said, we've never been able to figure out how the Americans can go to the moon and just come out of the capsule like they're being perfect shape. And our cosmonauts would go into space and they couldn't even walk for weeks.
Yep.
Oh, well, that was some information that we needed about 40 years ago.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's one of those situations where when you start taking out everything and look, well, why did they remove it in 1958 and announce a year and a half later that we're going to the moon?
Yeah, what's the benefit? What do they benefit from lying like that?
Control. To be honest, that's what I think. It's control. Because if you can get people convinced that you got an Arctic Circle and an Antarctic Circle on a circle spinning at 666,000 miles an hour, then you've got control. Because even it sounds like at a 45-degree angle, 666 miles an hour, at some point, you don't start doing this anymore. You start doing this. And we're not doing this. Nobody's flying off of it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're spinning like this, flat, and it's rotating around the star.
So what's on the other side? That's what I want to know.
I don't know. I mean, we'll have to ask all the countries that signed the Antarctica Treaty in the middle of World War II and why they don't want us to go down there.
Well, it makes you also think about the old explorers. Whenever they were talking about, they were afraid that they would sail off the edge of the earth. I mean, Drake was very, very, he said a lot about that. Columbus even said it.
Magellan, when he was going to talk about going around the Horn of Africa, talked about, I can't go much further down, I'll fall off.
Right.
Hey, who knows? My problem is, if you look at 1658, I think, map, there's islands on that map that didn't get discovered for another 200 years. Well, how does that happen? How the hell do you have a kind of an accurate map without the continent of Australia on it, but the islands everywhere are there? That's something I've come on. That's going to be another rabbit hole I'm about to go down, is the cartographer maps.
Yep. Wasn't it the Reese map? And is that what you're talking about, the Reese maps?
Yeah. All those islands weren't discovered for 200 more years. So it's weird. Was it divine intervention?
Mm-hmm.
Or was that what they knew from the Danes? Because you got to keep in mind that the Normans and the Danes were selling 1,000 years before Columbus was.
Yep.
And the funny thing is, and we're going back to that theory, how do people in the South Pole see the North Star?
Things that make you go,
Yeah. I mean, if you really want to mess Google up, type that question in there with a question mark and watch your stuff change every single
AI
time.
be like,
Right. Every time you hit the magnifying glass, it's a different top article every time. I said, oh, well, Google don't know either, so I'm not even going to pay attention to anything it tells me. But I mean, it's everything they've done is a control issue. We're fully aware. The problem is the renegade people that's out there. No pun on your name, Kentucky, but it's the renegade folks out there. People that don't conform to the thought process they want us to think. Same thing, and it's the same thing in the field. Me and Brooks is in. Renegade was in the healthcare field. If you bend the rules, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
If the problem is, when I went to nursing school in the 90s, I was taught you bend the rules until you almost break them, so your patient gets the benefit. You bend it one way for this patient, and you have to bend it another way for that patient. As long as
Be
you're
a patient advocate,
100% for your patient.
Yeah.
Bend the
Well,
rules
now,
just before they break.
yeah, now you can only be a patient advocate as long as it's on the woke side. It's like, no. Like, don't look at the research of people who transitioned and got a sex change. They got everything lopped off, and now they regret it. You can't talk about that. You just have to sign them up for their next hormone treatment and just call them what they want. And you don't dare cross that line.
All right. And I don't. When woke got in medicine is when medicine started to fall.
Yeah.
And it's been on a slow fall to the last 6 months, and now it's on a critical trip.
Last few years, man.
They have literally, the government stepped back, put their foot out there, and pushed you over the person behind you. So again, we did it all as kids. Somebody got down on their hands and knees and crawled up behind the person standing there, and you pushed them over. That's what they've done. That's what they've done to us. And the ones of us that don't put up with the bullshit, don't listen to the bullshit, don't sugarcoat shit, are the ones caught in the middle. We know to keep our mouth shut. But I'm finding the longer I'm in the field, I'm having a harder and harder time, or the ability to keep it shut.
Yeah.
Because common sense has got to, at some point, play a bigger role here. It has to. There's no in between anymore, in my opinion.
Yeah. We need to bring back,
common sense,
scientific backed research, saying, okay, we did the experiment. Let's look at what has been going on the last few years, starting with masks and our kids in school with masks on that we know didn't do anything for them, physically. But they've figured out quite a bit psychologically what's happening to the kids, and, their increase of mental health disorders, anxiety, depression, and all the things that go along with that. And then let's, talk about what kind of medicines that we were given to our people with COVID, right? It wasn't like, if you were talking about taking vitamin D, vitamin Z, zinc, drinking plenty of fluids, being healthy, you're a conspiracy theorist. But like that being said, sign right up, get that shot. It's going to save you. And if you said anything otherwise, you're a bigot, you're a racist, you hate people, you're a murderer. And just like, whoa. Let's look at ivermectin, because obviously we're dealing with things that we've never seen before. So let's look at everything. Like the people that want the shot, want the jabbity jab, cool. Make it voluntary. Let's see. And then let's look at what happens. The people that were naturopathic, how did they fare up? The people that went and got the jab, okay, how did they fare up? Why are we not asking these questions? And because we have people from all walks of life, and why can't we just look at this as a scientifically based practice and say, okay, the people that didn't get the shot, how did you do? What did you do different? Did you take vitamins? Did you take supplements? What was your workout regimen? What's your health look like? And why can't we just take all of the data and then the CDC say, we want it all? Conspiracy theorists, and then the vax, everybody, let's see what happens. So they're not talking about that. You can't talk about it. It's not allowed. You can't even have intelligent conversations at work with people who are smart, doctors, nurses. No, you can't talk about it. It's off limits. Shame on you for bringing it up.
Well, I mean, that's why they went hard after Joe Rogan whenever he was talking about taking the ivermectin, and he was doing vitamin B and vitamin C drip. I mean, they immediately went after him because no, he's taking horse medicine and all this other bullshit, when he had the actual way to get people to become better after that stuff. And, they wanted to outlaw ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine. They went after both of them.
Yeah. They wanted him to die. You should have saw the freaking text messages or whatever else, when he was saying he was doing better. They were like sad. Like the people in government and the pharmaceutical industry and all the woke people behind them, they literally wanted Joe Rogan to die of COVID. And the fact that he didn't, they were upset about. And the rest of us were just like interested. Very interested. How did you do? What did you do different? I mean, he's not even in the scope of the people that were dying of COVID by any means. But at the end of the day, the amount of hate that he got for just telling his experience. I got COVID. And I remember he looked like shit on camera. He did. I remember. And like, they're so angry.
I'm sure he looked more like shit because he said, I didn't know how much to take, so I took the whole tube.
Yeah.
I'm on the ivermectin program. I cannot imagine what he went through, but he talked about being out for like 24 hours. I believe it.
Well, if he took that much, yeah, he's probably crapping his brains out.
Yeah, well, he purged his system. I mean, that's
I bet.
And here's the point. When we had the swine flu come through, everybody talked about how ivermectin was going to stop the next pandemic. Mm-hmm. The damn medicine won a fucking Nobel Prize, and it had only been out for 2 weeks. The studies that they did on this for years, the FDA would never approve it for human use. They've just recently approved it for human use because their hand was forced.
Yeah.
And now it's over the counter, and now that Tractor Supply is, we're going to have a prescription. Well, bitch, you ain't got a pharmacist in there. You don't get a prescription because you want one to sell it over the counter. That's not how it works. Farmers are supposed to be able to get all of that for access for free. You got to pay for the medication, but it's supposed to be on the shelf inside a rural cooperative program.
Yeah, they're getting rid of that.
Is. And they're mad, but they can't control it. And the thing is that some of the rules that set up got through the system, and people didn't realize it. Now there's a big deal with this ivermectin and bucanerol, I think is the name of it. It's a combination wormer too, and it can be used for all animals, all mammals. That's the key word here, mammals. And it's supposed to be more effective than ivermectin. It's a combination of the two different types of wormers. I'm on the ivermectin thing now. Renegade's been alive and heard us talk about it. We give the lady that started us on the stuff, we give her hell all the time about it, old Pierce. But the thing is that it works. I can't explain to you how it exactly works. I can tell you that I feel different. I feel better. I'm not requiring as much medication that I normally took. I'm not taking as much medication as I normally took. There's something to what they're doing. And I think what they're scared of is that the ivermectin is going to show. They have allowed every year an increase in the amount of outstanding particles like rodent hair and the bones and all that stuff that gets ground up and put into your food. And those have bots in them. And if you hadn't read on bots, and this is for the people in the audience, if you hadn't read on bots and what bots do to your body, just look it up. Bots are a worm just like a hookworm in a dog, but they store into your fat cells. And you think you're craving sweets, you're not. The bots are craving the sweets to survive. And once you take and hit them with the ivermectin, I can promise you within 24 hours, sweets don't taste like they used to.
Interesting.
I don't. I haven't. I had, as a matter of fact, I had 2 special dark chocolate little snack bars yesterday. It's the first chocolate I've had in weeks. And even it tasted gritty. But and I'm eating healthier because I'm craving the vegetables, and I'm craving. That's after weeks of doing this. I'm sending the stuff over to Renegade in a text message so he can get started. He's got some health issues this might help him with. And everybody talks about, I can't believe you're doing that. Well, the old folks used to do it. they used to put 1 or 2 drops of turpentine on a teaspoon of sugar and eat it and drink a whole glass of water behind it about the middle of the month. Then the first of the month, they take a tablespoon of castor oil and the orange juice and purge their system of all of the toxins, all of the bots and the worms and all of that. We still have worms. We're still mammals, just like dogs and cats and dolphins and pigs and sheep and horse and cows. They all are mammals. They all still have worms. We all still treat our animals for worms. Why aren't we treating ourselves for the same thing? It's not a nice thought to think of, but at some point, you've got to break the damn system. And if that's what it takes to break the system, by all means, let's break it that way. Because the medicine doesn't get a Nobel Prize. A veterinary medicine definitely doesn't get a Nobel Prize. And this one got a Nobel Prize immediately upon release to the public. And these third world countries are adding it into their healthcare system as a treatment module. Not America. And you really do have to ask yourself why. I don't want to sound like I'm on the TV show, and we got to ask ourselves, but you really do. Why? Why does government not want you to have ivermectin? What is it about Plaquenil or HCQ that you can make in your kitchen? We're not getting the prescription. The prescription is a chemical formula. Natural HCQ can be made in your kitchen out of citrus fruits, because that's where Plaquenil is derived from.
That was the U.S. the only country in the world that allows all these chemicals in our food.
Yeah, and along with that comes the worms and the bots.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's not for everybody. I'm not saying that it is. I'm not saying that it ever will be. But what I'm saying is, it is one of those things you really do have to ask yourself, because it's your health care that you're doing. It's your health care for your kids that you're having to consider. And why aren't we treating ourselves for worms like we treat all of our animals? Because believe you me, if you're in an area where there's a humane society, you can't even adopt an animal without it being wormed. It has to be wormed before it can leave the building.
Yeah, that's true. I've raised
so why are we not worming ourselves?
That's a good idea.
It is a problem. It's because it leaves you unhealthy. No, don't do the turpentine, the castor oil. It's unhealthy. Well, them people live to be 105, 100, 600, 700, 8 years old.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it drops down to 70. How the hell does that happen?
Yeah, everything the FDA. I don't know. It's crazy,
Please
man.
Pay attention. Please pay attention to the banner at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah.
We are just conspiracy theorists.
Bunch of crazies. Bunch of crazies.
Right. But it's true. Why aren't people asking these questions anymore? When it happened with Joe Rogan, that's when I really started, and I saw everybody turn against him. I thought, But then to hear him tell what happened to him after he didn't know how much to take, he took the whole tube. And I started laughing. That's what started me reading. Well, damn, that's for a horse. A horse weighs over 1,000 pounds. He weighs what? 200 maybe?
Yeah.
He may weigh 225 because I think he still works out and does the MMA.
He looks like he works out.
So maybe 225. And then when you look at the breakdown, like, well, he wasn't even supposed to take a half a teaspoon of that. But then hear him talk about how he woke up in all of these sweats, and he woke up where he was wanting to vomit everything out, and he was scared to look in the toilet when he vomited. When he pooped, it was just all water and liquid, and when he looked in there, he was so disgusted it made him throw up. I thought, that's what it is. But when he said, and so much better after a week, they talked about how much better he felt and how he wasn't near as hungry. His cravings had changed. to more healthier foods that he was actually, and I can tell you what happened with me. I am a meat and potatoes guy. Steak, baked potato, I'm perfectly fine. I don't have to have nothing else. A little bread here and there. Now, when I go through, I drive right by. I'll tell you, I looked at the asparagus and walked on by and stopped and said, well, that looks good. I've never eaten asparagus. But when I cooked this shit, was good.
That's good stuff.
But it's because it changed my palate. Because the bots get all here, they get all up into your tongue, into your mouth, all the way down to your gut. And they crave sugar. So they send the signal to your brain, because guess where bots are also in your brain? They send it to the bots up here and says, crave sugar. We need sugar to survive. Yeah. And once you get rid of all of those, or start getting rid of all the mature ones, your taste buds change. I've been eating healthier. And my skin, everybody talks about on the lives, my skin looks better, but it does. I can see the difference. People at work tell me that.
Yeah, I can see your skin looks great.
We got a lady at work who had plaque psoriasis, and she got on the program. You can still see the raised areas, but they don't have that white film on it.
Interesting.
She doesn't take the harm. She doesn't take Humira or any of that for it. There's something to it. I can't explain it, but you and I both know plaque psoriasis is the hardest one to treat. And she just does the ivermectin.
Interesting.
So, I'm not saying try it. Please read the scroll at the bottom of your screen. Mm-hmm. It's not a recommendation for substitution of your health care. Discuss it with your doctor, who's going to tell you no. Essentially, you have to make up your own mind. It's your body.
Yeah.
You want to talk about being pro-choice or pro-life? Why don't you be pro-life by making a right choice? How about that?
Yeah. I agree with that, brother.
100%.
But there's my tangent, and I'm doing the ivermectin. I have the information. You'll check into the bio on the podcast. I've got an email. I will send you the information. I'm not sending it as a substitute for your care. I'm just sending it because you asked for it. I'm sending it to Renegade because he's got some healthcare issues that he needs to take care of and look at. He wants the information. I'm giving it to him. I've even got the foods by colors and what they treat by the color of the food that you eat. I've got all of those kind of slides, and it may not help you out so much with ivermectin, but it may make you make better food choices. As long as you're eating organic and growing your own.
I got my garden going.
Mine too. And I do think at some point, Brooks, I think we need to do a show on this electroculture. Because
on what?
Electroculture.
Okay.
I have absolutely have tomato plants that's 4 weeks old, and I'm already having to put them in cages.
Oh yeah. No, my plants are doing quite well. I got 2 of them underneath the lights right now, and I got 5 outside, and they're all doing really well. I enjoy.
Yeah, well, you got that crazy weather up there. I don't know how y'all ever get anything planted. It rains all the time up there on one side of the mountain.
Oh, it's all over the place. I mean, one day it's hot and sunny, the next day it's raining and cloudy, but it'll turn pretty hot pretty much every day here in another couple of weeks.
Yeah. All right, Brooks, you got any parting thoughts for the week?
No, it's a good show. I say, let's do another show next week. And I think there's a lot of good information that we're talking about, things that not everybody feels comfortable talking about. I'm not sure really why, but let's keep this up. I had a good time.
All right, Renegade, any parting thoughts? Do a shameless plug for your show now. That's what you're here for.
Right. Everybody just please go check out my show, Renegands Rant podcast. It is on Spotify. You can find it everywhere podcasts are heard. I've had Gray on. I hope to plan to have Brooks on. And listened to a little extra Lambo too.
Yeah.
He started into the podcast game. So
yeah.
no.
If it hadn't been for him, this wouldn't be happening right now. It really wouldn't have.
Hell
I
yeah.
think that show was like 2 hours and 20 minutes. It was a long show. It was the fastest 2 hours I think I've ever spent on a podcast, and I've been a guest on several. I'll still be doing episodes of the Nursing Underground. What this show will end up being called is Behind the Curtains with Brooke and Gray. We're going to take you on a different tour of healthcare. We have insights in the different parts that we've worked that we'll be talking about. We'll bring up the issues as they pop up. We'll be doing at least a weekly show. If not, if it gets to be more listeners, we will definitely and talk about increasing our work schedules, our couple of days where we can do a lot of recording, and we end up doing extra shows, it'll be during that time frame. I've enjoyed it. I love setting it up. I've had more fun doing this than getting it set up this time. We still got a few little minor things to finish up. Probably 2 weeks for a full blowout premiere. We'll try to get as many guests in and out as we can. It will be a video format, and then you'll be able to catch up on a podcast downloadable that you'll be able to listen to on the road. So I'd like to thank Renegade for being here. This is great for the Nursing Underground. I've never done it this way before. I usually give you the perfect thought of how I think, and that's about it. Leave you with a lot of information. One day I'll be able to talk about fully what happened with the show. I'm hoping it'll be sooner rather than later, but they still got about 44 buildings to go through to find the full total amount. There's a lot of fraud I uncovered, and maybe one day I'll get to tell you how they did it. But I didn't mean to make that much of a splash. Sorry, I've been gone outside of my control, and I couldn't tell anybody what was going on initially. I was gagged. I've still got a gag on specifics, but I'm back. Good to be back. I'm looking forward to working with Brooks. Always catch Renegands Rant podcast. Always get a little extra Lambo. In the meantime, I'm Gray for Renegade and Brooks. Hope you enjoyed the show. Y'all take care.
Good one, guys.
Everybody act accordingly. I'll take it
Will
easy.
do. All right, guys. Have a good one.
Later, guys.